morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in your time zone. Welcome back.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Do you have your coffee ready? Because I definitely have mine.
Oh, I've got a fresh mug right here and a very fresh stack of research notes to go with it.
Perfect. Welcome back, Sip and Talkers.
Yep. I'm Joe.
I'm Sunny, the one who takes all this heavy, complex information and tries to translate it into something digestible. You know, making sure you don't fall asleep while you're listening. So today's topic actually comes from a listener submission all the way from Taiwan.
Yeah, we love getting those. Keep them coming. Seriously.
Absolutely. And this topic really hits the core of what we do here on Sip and Talk. We are all about untangling these clues for the future by looking directly at the scars of history.
Right. And today we're looking at a very specific scar.
Exactly. Because depending on when you're listening to this, the date February 28th is either coming up or just passed. And for a lot of people around the world, you know, it's just a day. Maybe you're paying rent. Maybe you're just waiting for spring.
But in Taiwan, that date carries a lot of weight.
It really does. It's a national holiday now, but the atmosphere around it is always incredibly sensitive. So I want to just jump right in. Can you help us reconstruct what actually happened? Like, what was so extreme that it basically impacted this entire island for decades?
Yeah, to understand the explosion, we basically have to rewind the clock back to 1947.
Okay, 1947, so right after World War II.
Exactly. And context is everything here. Taiwan had just come out of 50 years of Japanese colonial rule. Yeah. Half a century. So the administrative systems, the infrastructure, the education, it was all heavily influenced by Japan.
Right. And then the war ends, Japan loses, and Taiwan is handed over to the Republic of China government, which was led by the Nationalist Party.
Yeah, the KMT were coming over from mainland China. And initially, you know, the locals were pretty optimistic. They thought, hey, we're returning to our roots. But that honeymoon phase evaporated almost instantly.
Why? What went wrong so fast?
It was a total pressure cooker situation. The new administration was just catastrophically corrupt.
When you say corrupt, are we talking like bad paperwork or?
No, I mean systemic, massive corruption, officials seizing properties for themselves. On top of that, you had skyrocketing inflation, where money was essentially becoming worthless overnight.
Oh, wow.
And there's this massive cultural clash. The incoming officials kind of looked down on the locals, viewing them as being poisoned by Japanese culture.
So you've got a population that's broke, probably hungry, and being treated like second-class citizens in their own home.
Exactly. It was a powder keg. And the thing that actually blew it all up happened on February 27th, the day before the infamous 228. And it started at a place called the Tianma Tea House.
Over cigarettes, right? Which just sounds so absurd to me. A lady selling cigarettes triggers a revolution.
I know. It sounds like a minor local news story today. But it wasn't just the cigarettes. It was accumulated resentment. So there was this 40-year-old widow, Lin Chiangmai.
Okay.
She was selling contraband cigarettes on the street just to survive. Agents from the government's Monopoly Bureau rolled up, and they seized all her goods and all her money.
Which was probably everything she had.
Literally her entire livelihood. So she's begging them, please give it back. And one of the agents just takes his pistol and pistol whips her right in the head.
God, that is brutal. Just beating an old widow in the street.
Right in public. So a crowd gathers, obviously furious, and things escalate. The agents panic, try to run, and one of them fires into the crowd and kills a bystander.
So you have a beaten widow, a dead innocent bystander, and a public that has already had enough.
And the city just snaps. The next day, February 28th, protesters marched to the Governor General's office to demand justice.
Which makes sense. You petitioned the government.
Sure, but the guards' response. They opened fire on the crowd.
With live ammunition.
With machine guns. And that was the point of no return. The protest just exploded out of Taipei and spread across the whole island. Keelung, Kaohsiung. People were taking over police stations, broadcasting demands on the radio.
Okay, so the government is completely losing control of the island. How do they handle that?
Well, I was thinking about this analogy earlier. Imagine you live in a condo and the elevator breaks. You and the other residents complain to the condo management to get it fixed.
A pretty normal thing to do.
Right. But instead of fixing the elevator, the management calls the police and has all the resident representatives arrested for rebellion.
That is insane. You're treating an opinion or a complaint like it's treason.
Exactly. And that's basically what the governor Chen Yi did. He went on the radio, pretended he was going to negotiate, and told the locals to form these settlement committees.
Let me guess. It was a trap.
A total trap.
Yeah.
While he was smiling and nodding, he was secretly telegraphing Chiang Kai-shek on the mainland asking him to send military troops.
Oh, that is so cold.
It was a stall tactic. On March 8th, the troops arrive and the March Massacre begins. And the grim reality here is that this wasn't just random soldiers shooting into crowds. It was a systematic decapitation of the society.
What do you mean by decapitation, like targeting specific people?
Yes. They specifically targeted the elites, the lawyers, the doctors, university professors, students. Famous artists like the painter Chen Chengpo were executed.
Why artists and doctors? That just seems so malicious.
Because if you want to control a population, you remove the people who can organize.
Yeah.
You remove the thinkers, the leaders. It's a textbook authoritarian move.
That is terrifying. Do we have numbers on how many people were actually killed?
That's hard to get a perfect count, but the official 1992 report from Taiwan's executive Yuan estimated the casualties to be somewhere between 18,000 and 28,000 people.
28,000 people over a dispute that started with cigarettes.
And the worst part, that was just the opening act. That massacre kicked off what is known as the White Terror, which was 38 years of martial law.
38 years. That's practically 2 entire generations living under this shadow.
Total psychological lockdown. Neighbors spying on neighbors. If you said the wrong thing or read the wrong book, you just disappeared.
But, Taiwan obviously didn't stay there. Today, it's this incredibly vibrant, noisy, robust democracy. You see their elections, the protests. It's very much alive. How on earth do you transition from 38 years of paranoia to a healthy democracy?
And that is the million-dollar question. It brings us to a concept called transitional justice.
Okay, transitional justice. I feel like you hear that term thrown around a lot by governments. Is that just a fancy political buzzword for, clearing names and paying out settlement money?
A lot of people think that's all it is. But it's so much deeper. It's the institutional handling of past crimes.
Give me an example. Make it make sense for everyday life.
Okay, think of a school where a teacher used to aggressively beat the students for years.
Okay, dark, but I'm tracking.
Eventually, the school gets a new principal. The school democratizes, basically. The beatings stop. But you can't just move on and pretend those kids weren't bruised.
Right, because the trauma is still there.
Exactly. So what do? You open the school records. You find out exactly who was hurt and who did the hurting. The school officially apologizes. But most importantly, you rewrite the school rules so that no teacher can ever physically harm a student again.
Okay, I love that analogy. It's not just paying off the victims, it's fixing the machinery so it can't be weaponized again.
Precisely. In political science, it rests on 4 pillars. First is truth. You have to open the government archives. You can't just rely on hearsay anymore.
Because rumors don't heal anything. You need facts.
Right. Second is accountability. You identify the perpetrators. And not just the foot soldiers who were following orders, but the big fish who gave the orders.
Got it. What are the last 2?
Third is reparation. Overturning false criminal records, restoring reputations, and yes, financial compensation. And the fourth is institutional reform, changing the Constitution and the laws.
It sounds like psychological rehab for collective trauma.
That's a great way to put it.
Like you have to squeeze the pus out of the wound so it can actually heal instead of just slapping a Band-Aid on it and hoping for the best.
Which is painful. But Taiwan did the painful work. And that actually brings up a huge thought experiment.
Oh, I love a good thought experiment. Lay it on me.
Taiwan went from the 228 incident and the White Terror to a robust democracy. The big question in political circles is, can other major authoritarian regimes do a Taiwan?
You're talking about places like China or Russia.
Exactly. Can they ever undergo transitional justice? It is basically the ultimate stress test for political science.
Well, let's start with China, because culturally they share so much with Taiwan. So the whole argument that, democracy doesn't work in Chinese culture or Taiwan kind of proves that wrong, right?
100%. There's this optimistic view called modernization theory. The idea is that as a country grows its economy, the middle class expands, they get comfortable, they travel, and eventually they start demanding political rights.
Right. That was basically the entire Western philosophy for the last few decades. Trade with them, and they'll naturally democratize.
Exactly. But it hasn't quite worked out that way. And the realistic obstacle to this is something called narrative bankruptcy.
Narrative bankruptcy. That sounds like when a TV show runs out of good plot lines.
It kind of is, but for a government. The Chinese Communist Party bases its entire legitimacy on a specific historical narrative. That they are the saviors. They ended the century of humiliation. They saved the people.
Okay, so they're the heroes of their own story.
Right. But if you initiate transitional justice, you have to open the archives. You have to tell the truth about the great leap forward when millions died, the Cultural Revolution, Tiananmen Square.
Oh, I see. If they open the books, the savior narrative completely collapses.
The heroes become the villains.
Hmm.
The narrative goes bankrupt. And the leadership knows this. It's well known that they have a deep fear of the Soviet collapse. They look at Gorbachev in the USSR, and they blame his policies of openness, his willingness to admit flaws, for destroying the party.
So for the CCP, transitional justice doesn't look like a path to healing. It literally looks like political suicide.
Exactly. They don't have an exit mechanism. In Taiwan, the KMT managed to transition and still survive as the political party that runs in elections. The CCP doesn't see a way to do that.
That is really heavy. What about Russia? I mean, they actually did collapse. The Soviet Union fell. Why didn't they get their Season 3 system update?
Because they only did a half measure. When the USSR fell in the 90s, they didn't fully clean house. They failed to do something called lustration.
Lustration. What is that?
It's the process of purging corrupt officials or former secret police from holding public office in a new democracy. Eastern European countries did it, but Russia didn't.
So the bad guys just kept their jobs.
Basically, the KGB archives stayed mostly shut. The old power players just changed into business suits and became the oligarchs. And, Putin himself is a former KGB agent.
So the rot was still in the floorboards?
Right. And you also have this cultural issue of the strongman cult. If you try to tear down the image of the great, infallible leader, national pride takes a massive hit.
Which explains so much of what we are seeing today.
But there is a really interesting energy twist when it comes to Russia's future.
Oh, tell me.
If Russia ever does undergo transitional justice in the future, it is almost certainly going to involve war reparations to Ukraine.
Right, for the massive destruction.
And how does Russia pay for that? It would likely be tied to their oil and gas revenue, which means any transition to democracy there completely rewires the energy map of Europe.
That is wild to think about. Okay, I want to pivot a bit, because we always like to bring this back to the Sip&Talkers listening right now.
The so what's factor?
Exactly. Let's say someone is listening to us while commuting in Chicago or walking their dog in London. Why should they care about something that happened in 1947 on an island in Asia?
Well, on a macro level, Taiwan is a laboratory. It proves that an authoritarian regime can end without a bloody civil war destroying the whole country. It's the control group in the grand experiment of democracy versus autocracy.
I love that. But let's talk self-interest. How does this affect their daily lives?
Okay, let's talk economics. If you're listening to this, you probably have a smartphone in your pocket.
Yep.
You're listening on a computer or a device that runs on advanced semiconductors. There's a reason everyone is talking about the CHIP PS Act in the U.S. right now.
Right, the CHIP PS Act. Semiconductors run literally everything. Cars, AI, phones.
And the vast majority of the most advanced chips in the world are manufactured in Taiwan.
But what does chip manufacturing have to do with the white terror and transitional justice?
Everything. You cannot sustain that level of cutting-edge global innovation in a totalitarian state.
Wait, really? Because the Soviets had incredible rocket scientists back in the day.
They did. But it wasn't sustainable across a broad economy. To lead the world in tech, you need a free flow of information. You need engineers who can collaborate globally without fear of the secret police knocking on their door. You need property rights.
So if Taiwan was still stuck in the white terror, they wouldn't be the tech powerhouse they are today.
Not a chance. If they hadn't democratized, the global supply chain for chips would look entirely different. So if you like your new phone, your laptop, or your pension fund, which probably has heavy exposure to Asian markets, you have a vested interest in Taiwan remaining stable and democratic.
That is such a tangible connection. I really love the way we broke this down in our notes earlier, using the TV series metaphor.
Yeah, that really visualizes it well.
Right, so if you think of it like a show, Season 1 was the cigarette spark, the 228 incident in 1947, total explosive drama.
And then Season 2 was basically 38 years on mute, the White Terror, a very dark, paranoid psychological thriller.
Then Season 3 is the system update. That's the hard work of democratization and transitional justice.
And right now, we are basically living in Season 4. Memory and divergence. Processing the trauma. And the thing is, the entire world is watching this show.
Waiting to see if other countries can make it to Season 3.
Exactly. Or if they get canceled before they even get close.
Man, that is a powerful way to frame it. So the importance of 228 isn't just about sadness or looking backward.
No, not at all. It's a blueprint.
A blueprint for how authoritarianism actually ends and how a society processes its memory without tearing itself apart.
Because democracy isn't just a natural state of being. It's not like a wild plant that just thrives if you ignore it.
It's a garden. You have to actively weed it.
You have to weed it, and sometimes you have to dig up the rotten roots so they don't choke out the new growth. That is what transitional justice is.
Well said. And I think we should add a quick disclaimer here. We are doing an objective analysis of facts and history.
Right. We encourage independent thinking. You see politicians globally, whether it's Trump or leaders in Europe, dealing with these massive shifts. We're not here endorsing any specific political party or side.
We're just looking at the mechanics of how human societies work and hopefully giving you something to mull over today.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed this heavy, but I think really necessary coffee chat, please hit subscribe to the Sip&Talk podcast.
And hey, don't forget our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
Yes, Mickey to Life.
He actually has a new travel vlog up right now.
Seriously, though, he updates so slowly. Mickey, if you are listening to this right now, hurry up. We are watching and waiting for content.
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on you, Mickey.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Catch you next time.